Ambassador stood at the observation window of her transport ship, watching the massive space station grow larger against the darkness. Prime Station orbited a purple gas giant, its metal surfaces reflecting strange light. This was the home of King, ruler of the Empire, and one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Was 42 years old, with short black hair and calm eyes that seemed to notice everything. She wore the formal blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps, with its silver emblem of a dove carrying an olive branch. To anyone watching, she looked like exactly what she was supposed to be, a peaceful diplomat on an important mission. Ambassador will dock in 15 minutes, said Park, her young assistant. He was 28, eager, and still believed that words could solve any problem. I've reviewed the trade agreements again. I think if we offer them access to our water purification technology, they might. They won't, said quietly, not turning from the window. King didn't invite us here to negotiate fairly. Frowned, then why are we here? Because refusing his invitation would have been an insult, and Earth needs those faster-than-light lane permits. She finally turned to face him. Stay close to me during the meetings. Don't accept any food or drink unless I approve it first. And if I tell you to leave a room, you leave immediately. Understand? Nodded, though he looked confused. Behind them, Commander Yang Xin checked his weapon for the third time. Yang was the head of security team, a tall man with sharp eyes and the bearing of someone who had seen combat. He didn't like this mission at all. Ambassador, I still think we should have brought more security, Yang said. The King's forces have us 50-1. 100 armed soldiers wouldn't change anything if the King wants us dead, replied calmly. We're here because humanity needs this deal. We play by the rules, even when others don't. The ship docked with a heavy clang. The airlock opened, releasing a hiss of equalizing pressure. Beyond it stood a formation of alien guards. They were warriors, each one nearly 8 feet tall with 4 arms and chitinous armor that seemed to grow from their bodies. Their weapons were held ready, though not aimed directly at the humans. A smaller alien stepped forward. It had the body of a serpent standing upright, with multiple eyes arranged around its head. This was King's chief advisor. Ambassador said, its voice like wind through dry grass. Welcome to Prime. The King awaits you in the Grand Hall. They walked through corridors that were too large for human comfort, clearly designed for beings much bigger than people. The walls were decorated with battle trophies and weapons from 100 different worlds. It was meant to intimidate, and noticed how hands trembled slightly as they passed beneath a massive alien skull. The Grand Hall was enormous, with a ceiling that disappeared into darkness above. Hundreds of alien nobles filled the space, representing dozens of different species. At the far end, on a throne carved from a single piece of black crystal, sat King. The King was massive, easily 12 feet tall even while sitting. His body was covered in scales that shifted from blue to purple. His 6 eyes fixed on as she approached, and his mouth opened to reveal rows of sharp teeth. The human diplomat, King said, his voice booming through the hall. How brave of your people to send someone so small. The alien nobles laughed, kept walking, her face showing no emotion. She stopped at the appropriate distance and bowed exactly as protocol demanded. Your Majesty, she said clearly, Earth sends its greetings and hopes for productive negotiations. Hopes, the King repeated as if tasting the word. Such a human concept, hope, dreams, wishes. We of the greater galaxy prefer certainty. He leaned forward. Let us speak of certainties, Ambassador. Certainty number 1, Earth is weak. Certainty number 2, your species has no real power in the galaxy. Certainty number 3, you need something from me. We seek fair trade agreements, replied. Access to the faster-than-light shipping lanes would benefit both our peoples. Fair, King smiled, showing all his teeth. Another interesting human word. Here is what I consider fair. Earth will surrender mining rights to 3 of your outer colonies. In return, I will grant you limited access to one shipping lane. The terms were insulting, and everyone in the hall knew it. Made a small noise of protest, but raised her hand slightly, silencing him. "That is not acceptable, Your Majesty," she said calmly. The hall fell silent. No one spoke to King this way. The king's eyes narrowed, and the scales on his body darkened to a deep, angry purple. "Not acceptable," he said slowly. "Perhaps you do not understand your position, little human. You have no power here. You have no fleet that can challenge mine. You have no allies who would support you. You are alone." "We are honest," said, "and we will not surrender our colonies to achieve what should be given freely under Galactic Council law." For a long moment the king stared at her. Then he laughed, but there was no humor in it. "The Galactic Council," he said mockingly. "Those old fools who believe in peace and fairness. I have them in my pocket, Ambassador. My empire controls 47 star systems. I have wealth beyond your comprehension and armies that could crush your entire species." He stood up from his throne, his full height making even the guards look small. "You will accept my terms or you will accept nothing." "Then we accept nothing," said. The king's expression changed. The mockery vanished, replaced by something cold and dangerous. "You are dismissed," he said quietly. "Show our guests to their quarters, make sure they are comfortable." As they were led away, Yang leaned close to. "That went well," he muttered sarcastically. "He's going to kill us," said softly so only Yang could hear. "Probably tonight." "Then why did you refuse him?" "Because we're human," replied. "We don't bow to tyrants, even when we should." Back in their assigned quarters, Yang immediately began scanning for surveillance devices. He found 17 cameras and 12 listening devices. Sat on one of the beds, his face pale. "What do we do now?" the young man asked. Before could answer, Yang cursed. He was looking at his handheld scanner, his face grim. "Ambassador, we have a problem. Our ship has been sabotaged. The engines are disabled and our communications array has been destroyed. Someone used an electromagnetic pulse while we were in the hall." Walked to the window and looked out at the stars. She had expected something like this. King was not the type to let an insult go unanswered. "Can you repair it?" she asked. "Not without parts we don't have. We're trapped here." Stood up, fear clear on his face. "We need to contact Earth. We need to tell them." "All communications are jammed," Yang interrupted. He pointed at his scanner again. "And there's something else. I'm detecting a countdown timer in the station's main computer. It's linked to this section of the station." "How long?" asked. 6 hours. "Until what?" Yang's jaw tightened. "The system is labeled Cleansing Protocol. I think it means this section will be vented into space. They're going to kill us and make it look like an accident." Was quiet for a moment, still looking out at the stars. Then she turned around and something had changed in her eyes. They were colder now, calculating. "Gather anything that could be used as a weapon. Yang, map every exit from this section. I need to know every corridor, vent, and maintenance shaft." "What are you going to do?" asked. Began removing her formal diplomatic jacket, revealing the simple black shirt underneath. "What I should have done the moment we arrived," she said. "I'm going to make sure we survive the night." The attack came at midnight, station time. Commander Yang had moved to a more defensible position in a maintenance corridor 2 levels below their original quarters. He had set up basic defenses using furniture and equipment panels, but he knew it wouldn't stop a serious assault. He was a soldier, and he understood how this would end. They were 3 humans against an entire station of hostile aliens. What bothered him most was how calm Ambassador had been. She had helped them move supplies, had checked their defensive positions with a professional eye that seemed out of place for a diplomat, and then she had simply disappeared. She told them to stay hidden and wait for her signal. That had been 2 hours ago. "Where did she go?" whispered. The young man was holding a heavy wrench like a weapon, his knuckles white with tension. I don't know, Yang admitted. He checked his weapon again, a standard diplomatic security sidearm that would be useless against armored troops. But I'm starting to think Ambassador has more experience with this kind of situation than her file suggests. The lights suddenly went red. An alarm began to wail throughout the station. Yang's blood went cold. They were out of time. Heavy footsteps echoed through the corridor. Yang counted at least 30 different footfalls, maybe more. Through the dim emergency lighting, he saw them coming. Elite guards, each one heavily armored and carrying plasma rifles. Leading them was something even more terrifying. Captain stood 9 feet tall, a creature with 4 arms and mandibles that clicked together as it moved. It was King's personal executioner, famous throughout the Empire for never failing a kill order. Its compound eyes reflected the red light like rubies. "Human insects hiding in the walls," said, its voice like grinding metal. "Come out and die with dignity." Yang aimed his weapon at the approaching soldiers. It was hopeless, but he would not surrender. Beside him was praying quietly in Korean. The guards raised their weapons. Yang prepared to fire, and then the lights went out completely. In the sudden darkness, Yang heard 3 distinct sounds: a whistle, a crack, and a thud. Then silence. After 5 seconds, emergency lighting flickered back on, dimmer than before. 3 guards lay on the floor, not moving. Their armor had been pierced by some kind of blade, each strike perfectly placed to kill instantly. The other guards were looking around in confusion, their weapons swinging toward every shadow. "What was that?" one guard hissed. "Search everywhere," commanded. "Find the human female." Female? Yang's mind raced. They were looking for Ambassador, but how did she take down 3 armored guards in total darkness? The guards spread out, moving carefully now. They were professionals, trained and dangerous. But Yang noticed something. They were afraid. These elite soldiers who had probably never retreated from anything were moving like prey animals, watching every corner. The lights went out again. This time Yang heard more sounds. Impacts, a cut-off scream, something heavy hitting the floor. When the lights returned, 5 more guards were down. "She's in the ventilation system," one guard shouted, pointing at an open grate above them. "No," said another guard, staring at a different direction. "She's behind us." "She can't be in 2 places at once," roared. "Find her and kill her." But the guards were panicking now. They fired blindly at shadows, at sounds, at nothing. Every time the lights went out, more of them fell. It was like watching a horror movie, except the monster wasn't some alien creature. It was a 42-year-old human woman who should have been negotiating trade agreements. Yang grabbed and pulled him back deeper into the corridor. Whatever was happening, they needed to stay out of the way. He keyed his radio, hoping it would work. "Ambassador, if you can hear me, we're holding position in Corridor 7 Beta." For a moment there was only static. Then's voice came through, calm and controlled. "Yang, take and head to the secondary hangar. It's 3 levels down, Section 12. The route is marked on your scanner. Do not stop for anything. Do not try to help me. Just get there and wait." "Ambassador, what's happening? How are you?" "That's an order, Commander. Move now." Yang hesitated only a second, then nodded too. They moved quickly through the maintenance corridors, following the map on Yang's scanner. Behind them, they could hear more sounds of fighting, weapons fire, shouts, and the terrible silence that followed. As they ran, gasped out questions between breaths. "Commander, what is she doing? How can one person fight so many?" "I don't know," Yang said, but that was a lie. He was starting to understand. He had served in Earth's military for 15 years and he had heard stories. Legends, really. About special operators who could do impossible things. Ghost soldiers who could take down entire enemy units alone. They had code names, not real names. Names that were meant to scare enemies. One of those names was Baba. It was supposed to be a myth. A story told to recruits to inspire them or scare them, depending on who was telling it. The ghost assassin who never missed, who could turn any place into a death trap, who could disappear and reappear like smoke. The person who had taken down terrorist organizations, criminal empires, and even corrupt governments, all without anyone ever seeing them clearly. But it was just a story, wasn't it? They reached the secondary hangar and barricaded themselves inside. It was a small docking bay with 2 personal shuttles, both locked and useless without access codes. They waited, listening to their own breathing and the distant sounds of combat echoing through the station. 30 minutes passed, then an hour. The sounds of fighting had stopped. Yang didn't know if that was good or bad. Finally, the hangar door opened. Yang raised his weapon, then lowered it immediately. Ambassador walked in. Her diplomatic uniform was gone. She wore a simple black outfit that was torn in places and stained with blue alien blood. She carried 2 curved combat blades and a plasma rifle she had taken from a guard. Her short hair was messy, and there was a cut on her cheek, but her eyes were sharp and focused. "Are you hurt?" she asked, her voice still calm despite everything. "No, Ambassador, we're fine," Yang said. He stared at her. "But I think you need to tell us what's really going on." Set down the weapons and leaned against a cargo container. She looked tired. "How much of your military history do you know, Commander?" "Enough. I know about the special operations units, the classified programs." He paused. "I know about the legends." "They're not legends," said quietly, "or at least one of them isn't." She looked at her hands, at the blood on them. "Before I became a diplomat, I was a soldier, not a regular soldier. I was part of something darker. They gave me a code name. They called me Baba." Made a small sound. Even he had heard the stories. "I did things I'm not proud of," continued. "Terrible things for what I believed were good reasons. I killed people, a lot of people. I was good at it, too good. And then one day I looked at myself and I didn't recognize who I had become." She closed her eyes. "So I stopped. I retired. I became a diplomat because I wanted to prove that problems could be solved without violence, that words could be stronger than weapons." "But you came back," Yang said. "I didn't have a choice." King made sure of that. She opened her eyes again, and they were hard. "I tried to be someone better, but some people only understand one language." Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the hangar. The walls shook. Through the windows, they could see something emerging from the station's lower levels, dozens of sleek, mechanical shapes. They moved with an insect-like grace, their surfaces gleaming under the station's lights. "What are those?" asked his voice shaking. His expression darkened. "War drones, illegal under Galactic Council law. Biomechanical hunters designed to kill anything they're programmed to target." She picked up her weapons again. "King is no longer trying to hide what he's doing. He wants us dead, and he doesn't care who knows it." The first wave of drones smashed through the hangar's secondary doors. There were at least 50 of them, maybe more. Each one was equipped with cutting lasers and razor-sharp appendages. They moved as a swarm, coordinating perfectly. Yang raised his weapon, knowing it was hopeless, backed toward the corner, still holding his wrench. Stepped forward, positioning herself between the drones and her companions. She looked back once at Yang. "Remember what I said about being someone better?" "Yes, Ambassador." "I lied." She turned back to face the swarm, her blades ready. "I'm exactly who I always was. I just tried very hard to forget it." The drones surged forward, and the woman who had once been called Baba went to meet them. 15 years ago, on Earth, in a building that officially didn't exist, a meeting took place that would change everything. General Wu Nam sat across from a young woman with cold eyes and blood under her fingernails. She had just returned from what the files would call Operation Final Silence. In reality, she had spent 3 weeks hunting down a terrorist network that had killed 200 civilians in Seoul. She had found every single member. None of them survived to trial. The general said softly, using her real name instead of her code name, "We need to talk about your future." I don't have a future, she replied. Her voice was empty. I'm a weapon. Weapons don't retire, they just get used until they break. Is that what you think you are? She looked at him with those cold eyes. I've killed 47 targets in 5 years. I've destroyed organizations, ruined lives, left children without parents. What else would you call me? The general had seen many soldiers break under the weight of what they had done, but wasn't broken. She was something worse. She was hollow. The violence had eaten away everything inside her until only the mission remained. I call you someone who needs to find a new purpose, he said, before the old purpose destroys you completely. In the throne room of Prime Station, King watched the security footage with growing horror. His advisor stood beside him, multiple eyes fixed on the screens showing the hangar. The human female was fighting the war drones, and she was winning. She moved like water flowing between their attacks. When a drone lunged at her, she wasn't there. When they fired their lasers, she had already moved. She used their own weapons against them, redirecting laser blasts into other drones, causing them to destroy each other. She found weaknesses in their programming, exploited their coordination algorithms, turned the swarm into chaos. This is impossible, whispered. Those drones have killed entire battalions. How can one human? Because she is not just human, said grimly. He pulled up a data file on his screen, one he had obtained through less-than-legal channels from Earth's military archives. I found her file after the first attack. I thought I was dealing with a simple diplomat. I was wrong. The file was heavily redacted with most information blacked out, but what remained was enough. There was a photo of a younger in military gear. Below it, a list of operations, and at the top, in bold letters, a single word, Baba Yaga. He was Earth's most successful covert operative, continued, reading from the file. 47 confirmed operations, over 200 high-value eliminations, 0 failures. Her specialty was impossible missions against overwhelming odds. He looked up at the screen, where had just disabled another dozen drones. She retired 15 years ago after her partner was killed. The humans thought she was done. They made her a diplomat, thinking her skills at violence would translate to skills at peace. Why didn't you know this before? Demanded. Because the humans hid it very well, and because I was arrogant. The king's scales darkened with anger at himself. I saw a woman diplomat and assumed weakness. I made the same mistake many have made about humans. I judged them by their appearance rather than their capability. On the screen stood among the wreckage of 50 drones. She was breathing hard, bleeding from multiple cuts but still standing, and more drones were coming, hundreds of them pouring out of every access point. Back in the hangar, Yang and watched in stunned silence as fought. The commander had seen combat, had trained with some of Earth's best soldiers, but he had never seen anything like this. It wasn't just skill, it was art, deadly, brutal art. How is this possible? Asked, his voice barely a whisper. Training, Yang said. Years of training, combat experience, and something else. Something you can't teach. He watched dismantle another drone with precise strikes to its joints. She sees the battlefield differently than we do. She's already 3 moves ahead, planning her attacks while defending against the current ones. But there are so many of them, she can't possibly. A drone got past defense and slashed at her side. She twisted, taking the hit on her shoulder instead of her chest, and used the drone's momentum to throw it into 3 others. But Yang saw the way she stumbled slightly. She was getting tired. Even Baba had limits. More drones poured in. The swarm was learning from her tactics, adapting. They were starting to coordinate in new patterns, ones designed specifically to counter her movements. In another minute, maybe 2, they would overwhelm her through sheer numbers. Knew it too. Yang could see the calculation in her eyes. She was looking for options, running through scenarios, searching for a solution that didn't exist. They were trapped in this hangar with no way out and an endless enemy. That's when did something unexpected. She pulled out a small communication device from her pocket, one that Yang hadn't known she had. It looked old, different from standard diplomatic equipment. She pressed a single button. "What is that?" Yang shouted over the sound of fighting. "Emergency beacon," called back, ducking under a drone's attack. "Special operations equipment. Quantum encrypted, impossible to jam. I swore I'd never use it again." "What does it do?" "It sends one word to Earth. One code word that means only one thing." She drove her blade through a drone's central processor. "It tells them that the situation has gone beyond diplomatic solutions, that the old protocols are back in effect." "What word?" Looked at him, and for the first time he saw something like regret in her eyes. "Reaper." On Earth, in a military command center deep beneath the surface, an old general sat at his desk reviewing reports. General Wu Nam was retired now, but he still kept an office here, still kept certain channels open, just in case. An alarm sounded on his personal terminal, not a normal alarm, a specific one he had hoped never to hear. He opened the message with hands that shook slightly. One word appeared on the screen: Reaper. Below it a location, Prime Station. Wu closed his eyes and was quiet for a long moment. Then he opened a communication channel that hadn't been used in 15 years. "This is General Nam. Authorization code Omega-77. Activate the Reaper protocol. Target location, Prime. Time frame, immediate." "Sir," the voice on the other end said hesitantly, "are you certain that protocol requires?" "I know what it requires," Wu said firmly. "Ambassador has sent the code. That means she's out of options. That means she's going full Baba." He looked at the screen showing last known location. "It also means that whoever pushed her to this point is about to learn a very painful lesson about humanity." "What lesson is that, sir?" "That the people we send to make peace are the same ones who were very, very good at making war. And when you force them to remember what they were, you've made a terrible mistake." Within minutes, communication channels across Earth's military network lit up. Ships that had been on routine patrols suddenly changed course. Weapons systems that hadn't been active in years powered up. Soldiers who thought they would never see combat again checked their equipment with practiced hands. The first contact fleet, Earth's and most advanced military force, had been conducting exercises 3 star systems away from Prime. It was a coincidence that people in power had carefully arranged. Admiral Ah received the Reaper protocol activation with a grim smile. "All ships battle stations," she commanded. "Charge all weapons, prepare for faster-than-light jump. Destination Prime Station." "Admiral," her second officer said, "if we jump in there without permission from the Galactic Council, it could be considered an act of war." "They tried to kill our ambassador," Ah replied coldly. "They've already declared war, they just don't know it yet." She looked at the main screen showing the route to Prime. "Humanity spent centuries fighting each other. We learned to be very good at war. Now someone out there is about to receive an education." The fleet jumped. 30 human warships vanished from their exercise area and reappeared at the edge of the Prime system. They were smaller than the massive battleships, but they were faster, more maneuverable, and equipped with weapons that Earth had developed in secret. Admiral Ah opened all communication channels, broadcasting to every ship and station in the system. "This is Admiral Ah of Earth's first contact fleet. We are here to retrieve Ambassador. Release her immediately, or we will consider her capture an act of war." On his throne, King stared at the screen showing 30 human warships facing his defense fleet of 300. He laughed. "You are outnumbered 10 to 1. You are primitives with barely functional ships. You will be destroyed." Admiral Ah's response was broadcast for everyone in the system to hear. Her voice was calm, almost friendly. "Your Majesty, you have made 2 critical mistakes today. First, you tried to kill our ambassador. That was foolish." She paused. "Second, you assumed we were primitives. That was fatal. Let me educate you about humanity." She closed the channel and looked at her weapons officer. "All ships fire at will. Show them what humans learned from fighting each other for thousands of years." The space battle began, and King started to understand just how badly he had miscalculated. The defense fleet was massive, powerful, and completely unprepared for what hit them. Human ships moved differently. They didn't follow the standard battle formations that had been used in galactic warfare for thousands of years. Instead, they scattered, regrouped, and attacked from unexpected angles. Their weapons were strange too, using magnetic acceleration and focused energy in ways they had never encountered. But most importantly, they fought with a ferocity that came from a species that had spent its entire history at war with itself. Commander Wu led a squadron of 12 human fighters through the formation. She was 26 years old, had grown up watching videos of Earth's fighter pilots, and had trained her entire adult life for space combat. Now she was finally getting to show what humans could do. "Gold Squadron, split formation," she commanded. "Hit their shield generators from above and below simultaneously. They can't defend both angles at once." The fighters dove and climbed, moving in 3 dimensions while the ship struggled to track them. Human pilots had trained in atmospheric flight before space combat, learning to think in ways that aliens who had only known the void could not imagine. "Their shields are rotating too slowly," called out one pilot. 40-millisecond gap between coverage zones." Wu grinned. 40 milliseconds was an eternity to a human pilot. "All fighters exploit the gap. Fire on my mark." They struck in perfect coordination. 12 missiles hit 12 shield generators in the same instant, slipping through the gaps in coverage. The battleship's shields flickered and died. "This is impossible," one of the captains broadcast. "How can they react so quickly?" On the bridge of Earth's flagship, Admiral Ah heard the transmission and smiled. "Because we're not like you," she said, though she knew the captain couldn't hear her. "You grew up with technology that made everything easy. We grew up having to be better than our machines just to survive each other." Dr. Dupark, the fleet's chief scientist, was monitoring the battle from his station. He was analyzing every weapon, every shield frequency, every energy signature. His team had spent years studying captured alien technology, looking for weaknesses. "Admiral, I have something," Du said suddenly. "The shields use a harmonic resonance pattern if we adjust our weapons to match the inverse frequency." "How long to recalibrate?" Ah interrupted. 30 seconds per ship." "Do it. All ships, hold current positions and recalibrate weapons per Dr. Park's specifications." The human fleet suddenly went on pure defense, shields at maximum, weathering the assault while their weapon systems were modified. King, watching from the station, thought they were retreating. "Press the attack," he commanded. "They are weakening." The fleet surged forward, confident in their numerical superiority. That's when the human weapons finished recalibrating. The next volley of human fire passed through shields as if they weren't there. Battleships that had seemed invincible suddenly found their hulls exposed to direct fire. Explosions blossomed across the formation. "They adapted," whispered in shock. "In the middle of battle, they analyzed our defenses and adapted. How?" Watching beside him finally understood. They have been fighting each other for their entire existence. They have evolved to learn, adapt, and overcome. We have known peace for 1,000 years. They have known only war. On the station was still fighting the drones. She had disabled or destroyed over 200 of them, but there seemed to be no end. Her body was covered in cuts and burns. Her weapons were damaged, and she was so tired she could barely stand. But she could not stop. Behind her, Yang depended on her, and somewhere out there, Earth was coming. She just had to survive long enough. A drone got past her guard and slashed across her leg. She fell to one knee and 3 more drones lunged at her. This was it. She couldn't dodge them all. Then the hangar wall exploded. Not from the drones, from outside. A human breaching charge had blown a hole in the station's hull. Through the gap she could see space, the battle raging beyond, and a human shuttle forcing its way through the debris. The drones paused, their programming confused by the new development. Didn't pause. She threw herself toward the shuttle, grabbing and yang as she went. Move. They scrambled through the breach as the station's emergency systems activated, trying to seal the hull. The shuttle pilot, a young human woman with quick reflexes, caught them with a tractor beam and pulled them aboard just as the hangar explosively decompressed. Collapsed on the shuttle floor, gasping for breath, medics immediately swarmed her, treating her wounds. "Ambassador," one of them said, "we need to get you to medical." "No time," forced out. "King, he'll have a final plan, something desperate." She was right. On his throne, surrounded by his remaining guards, King watched his fleet being destroyed. 30 human ships had defeated 300 of his. His reputation was ruined. His empire was crumbling. The other galactic powers would see this as weakness and move against him. He had one card left to play. "Activate the station's self-destruct," he commanded. Turned to him in shock. "My lord, there are still 50,000 people on this station, your own subjects." "Are acceptable losses," snarled. "If I cannot have victory, I will have revenge. The humans came for their ambassador. Let them watch as I kill her along with everyone else." He initiated the sequence personally, his royal override bypassing all safety protocols. The station's fusion reactor began overloading. In 10 minutes, it would explode with enough force to destroy everything within 1,000 kilometers, including most of the human fleet. But he wasn't done. He walked to where had been kept prisoner before the chaos started. The young human was gone, but there was still a way to hurt them. "Send a message to the human admiral," commanded. "Tell her I have reactivated my hostage. Tell her ambassador's assistant is still on the station in the throne room. If she wants to save him, she must send someone alone and unarmed." Of course wasn't there, but didn't care about truth anymore. He cared about revenge. The message reached Admiral Ah, who forwarded it immediately too. The ambassador, still being treated in the medical bay, read it and went pale. "It's a trap," Yang said immediately. "Is here with us safe. The king is lying." "I know," said, "but he doesn't know that I know. He's trying to lure me back." She stood up, ignoring the medic's protests. "Which means he's desperate, and desperate people make mistakes." "You can't go back there," Yang said. "Even if was actually captured, you're in no condition to fight." Looked at him with those cold eyes again. "Commander, what do you know about culture?" "Not much, Ambassador. I studied it extensively before this mission. They have an ancient code of honor, one they claim to follow but usually ignore. It's based on something called the Trials of Ancestors. It states that any dispute between leaders must be settled through single combat if one party invokes the ancient words." "You're going to challenge the king to single combat?" asked in disbelief. "It's the only way to end this without thousands dying," said. She began putting on a clean uniform, moving stiffly because of her injuries. "Admiral Ah can destroy the station's reactor if needed, but that would kill everyone aboard. Innocent people, workers, civilians, I won't allow that." "So you're going to sacrifice yourself instead?" "No," said quietly. "I'm going to do what I should have done the moment we arrived." She picked up her weapons, checking them one final time. "I'm going to stop pretending I'm not Baba." Admiral Ah tried to stop her but pulled rank as the senior diplomatic officer. "This is my mission, Admiral, my responsibility. Let me end it." "Ambassador, he's going to kill you." "He's going to try," moved toward the shuttle bay. "But I've spent 15 years running from what I was. Maybe it's time to accept it. I'm not a warrior anymore, but I remember how to be one. And sometimes, to preserve peace, you have to be willing to fight for it." She took a shuttle alone, flying through the debris field toward the station. The forces didn't stop her. King had ordered them to let her through. He wanted this confrontation. When she arrived at the throne room, the doors were open. King sat on his throne, surrounded by his elite guards. The room was broadcasting to every screen in the system. Everyone would see what happened next. "The human diplomat returns," said mockingly. "Have you come to beg for your assistant's life?" "I've come to invoke the trials of ancestors," said clearly, imperfect. "I challenge you, King of the Empire, to single combat for the fate of all those on this station." The throne room went silent. The guards looked at each other in confusion, even seemed surprised. You know our ancient laws?" he asked. "I know many things about your people," replied. "I know that you claim to honor your ancestors while spitting on everything they valued. I know that you rule through fear rather than respect. And I know that by your own laws, you cannot refuse this challenge without being declared unfit to rule." Stood slowly. He was twice her size, had cybernetic enhancements, and was fresh while she was wounded and exhausted. But she had called him out in front of his entire empire. He had no choice. "Very well, human," he said, his voice full of hate. "I accept your challenge, and when I kill you, your people will learn their place in this galaxy." Drew her blades, "or you'll learn why humans don't stay in the place where others try to put them." The throne room was cleared. Guards moved to the walls, forming a circle around the combat area. This was being broadcast across the entire galaxy now. The Galactic Council members watched. Alien civilians watched. And on the human ships, every crew member who could spare a moment stopped what they were doing to watch their ambassador face a king. King removed his ceremonial robes, revealing armor underneath. His 4 arms flexed, each one equipped with retractable blades. His cybernetic enhancements glowed with power. He stood 12 feet tall, a creature built for violence. Stood opposite him. She was 5 feet and 6 inches tall, wounded, exhausted, and human. She held 2 combat blades that looked like toys compared to the king's weapons, but her eyes were steady. "Last chance to surrender," human said. "Bow before me, and I will make your death quick." "I stopped bowing to tyrants a long time ago," replied. The fight began. Lunged forward with incredible speed for something his size. His 4 arms attacked from different angles simultaneously, each blade seeking a killing blow. It was an attack that had defeated champions across the galaxy. "Wasn't there?" She moved like water, sliding past his attacks by margins so thin they seemed impossible. She couldn't match his strength or reach, so she didn't try. Instead, she targeted his joints, the gaps in his armor, the places where cybernetics connected to organic tissue. The first cut was shallow, just a line across his lower left arm. The second was deeper, severing a control cable for one of his cybernetic enhancements. The third hit a nerve cluster that made his upper right arm go numb. Roared in pain and anger. He had fought in hundreds of battles, killed countless opponents. He was a king. How dare this human make him bleed? He attacked again, faster and more vicious. His blades sang through the air, creating a web of death that should have been impossible to escape, but had spent 20 years learning to do impossible things. She didn't just react to his attacks. She had studied biology, knew how their muscles worked, understood how their 4-armed combat style forced certain patterns. She was reading his movements before he made them, positioning herself where his blades couldn't reach. And every time she moved, she struck back. Small cuts at first, then deeper wounds. She was taking him apart piece by piece. On the human flagship, Admiral Ah watched with a mixture of awe and horror. "She's not just fighting him," she whispered. "She's teaching the entire galaxy a lesson." Beside her, Dr. Du nodded. "She's showing them that size doesn't matter, that technology doesn't matter, that reputation doesn't matter. What matters is skill, intelligence, and the will to survive." In the throne room was beginning to panic. He had landed a few hits, but they were glancing blows. Meanwhile, he was bleeding from a dozen wounds. His cybernetics were malfunctioning, and this human woman wouldn't stop. "What are you?" he gasped, his voice strained. "I'm someone who learned a long time ago that violence has consequences," said, ducking under another attack. "That every person you hurt hurts someone else. That power without responsibility is tyranny." She struck again, this time cutting through the armor on his leg. "You thought humans were weak because we chose diplomacy. You didn't understand that we chose diplomacy because we know exactly how terrible violence is. We've done it to each other for thousands of years." Stumbled, his wounded leg barely supporting his weight. Pressed her advantage, moving faster now despite her exhaustion. Her blades were extensions of her will, precise and unforgiving. "You wanted to see the monster behind the diplomat," she continued, her voice cold. "Well, here I am. I'm Baba. I'm the ghost that haunted terrorists and warlords. I'm the reason Earth's enemies learned to fear the dark." Another strike, this one disarming him of his upper left blade. "And I gave all of that up because I understood something you never could. Being able to kill doesn't mean you should." Tried one final desperate attack, throwing all his remaining strength into a four-armed strike meant to crush her. It almost casually, and as he stumbled past her, she struck. Both her blades hit pressure points on his back, and the king collapsed to his knees, his weapons clattering to the floor. The throne room was silent. The galaxy watched as stood over the fallen king, her blade at his throat. "Do it," snarled through his pain. "Kill me. Prove you are the monster I said you were." His hand trembled. This moment had played out countless times in her past. The enemy defeated, the mission complete, one final strike to end it all. It would be so easy, so familiar. But then she looked up. She saw the cameras broadcasting to the galaxy. She saw Yang watching from the shuttle. She saw Admiral Ah and her crew on the human ships. She saw a galaxy full of aliens who were learning about humanity for the first time. What did she want them to learn? Lowered her blade. "No," she said quietly, "I won't kill you. Not because you deserve mercy, but because humanity deserves better than to be known only for violence." She stepped back from the king. "I came here as a diplomat to build peace. You turned it into a war, but I choose how this story ends, not you." She turned to face the cameras directly. "People of the Galactic Council, you have watched a king attempt murder. You have watched him break every law of civilized space. You have watched him use illegal weapons and threaten innocent lives." Her voice grew stronger. "But you have also watched humanity choose mercy when we could have chosen revenge. We are not the primitives you thought we were. We are not weak because we seek peace. We seek peace because we know the cost of war better than anyone in this galaxy." She turned back to, "Your empire is finished. Your people will decide your fate, but I will not be your executioner. That's the difference between us." The throne room doors opened. Guards entered, but not to defend their king. They moved to arrest him instead. Learned later that the broadcast had changed everything. The people, seeing their king's cruelty and cowardice, had revolted. The other council members had voted unanimously to remove him from power. Admiral Ah's fleet escorted back to the flagship. The station's self-destruct had been disabled. The battle was over. Humanity had won, not through superior firepower, but through something the galaxy hadn't expected: restraint. In the medical bay, as doctors treated wounds, sat beside her. "Why did you spare him?" he asked. "After everything he did." Was quiet for a moment. "Because I spent 15 years killing people I thought deserved it. And you know what I learned? Violence doesn't end cycles. It creates them. If I had killed him, I would have been the monster he said I was. And humanity would have been judged by that action forever." "But you're Baba," said. "You're supposed to be." "I was Baba," interrupted gently. "Past tense. Yes, I can still fight. I can still kill if I must. But that's not who I want to be. That's not who humanity should be." She looked at him seriously. "We're trying to join a galactic community. We need to show them that we're more than our capacity for violence. We have to show them our capacity for growth, for mercy, for choosing the harder right over the easier wrong." 3 months later, the Galactic Council convened for a historic vote. Earth was granted not just access to the FTL shipping lanes, but a permanent seat on the Council itself. The vote was unanimous. Was asked to be Earth's first Council representative. She accepted, though she knew it would be difficult. The other species still feared humans, but now it was a respectful fear. They had seen what humans could do when pushed. They had also seen what humans chose to do instead. On her first day at the Council, several members approached her privately. They wanted to know about Earth's military, about human tactics, about how 30 ships defeated 300. "I'll tell you the truth," said to them. "Humans are dangerous. We spent thousands of years perfecting the art of war. We built weapons that could destroy our entire world. We fought each other over land, resources, ideas, and beliefs. We became very, very good at violence." The aliens looked nervous, but continued, "We also learned something important from all that violence. We learned that it never actually solves anything. It just creates more violence. So we made a choice as a species to try something different, to use our intelligence for peace instead of war, to talk instead of fight." She smiled. "That doesn't mean we've forgotten how to fight. It means we've learned when not to." The representative, a crystalline being who had initially opposed human membership, spoke up. "But what if someone attacks you? What if someone tries to destroy your people?" "Then they'll learn what King learned," said simply, "that the people most capable of violence are often the ones who choose peace. And when you force us to remember what we were, you've made a terrible mistake." She paused. "But we'll always give you the choice to walk away. We'll always try diplomacy first, because that's who we are now." Word spread quickly through the galaxy. Humans were not to be trifled with, but they were also fair partners. They could be trusted to keep their word, and if you treated them with respect, they would treat you the same way. There was a name the aliens gave to this human philosophy. They called it the Baba Doctrine. Be kind, be fair, seek peace, but never forget that you know how to destroy anyone who threatens those you protect. 6 months after the incident at Prime, received a message from General Wu on Earth. It was short and simple. "You did good, Baba. You found a better way." She smiled at the message. The old her, the violent her, the person she had been trying to escape for 15 years, was finally at peace with the person she had become. She wasn't a warrior anymore. She wasn't just a diplomat either. She was something new, something better. She was someone who knew the cost of violence and chose peace, not from weakness but from strength. Yang visited her office one day with news. "Ambassador, we've received 3 more requests for diplomatic meetings. The Empire, the Collective, and the Assembly. All of them specifically requested you as the negotiator." "Do you know why?" asked. "They said they wanted someone who understood both peace and war, someone who could speak both languages." He grinned. "Apparently, your reputation has spread. They're calling you the diplomat who can't be threatened." Laughed softly. "That's not quite accurate. I can be threatened. I just don't respond well to it." "What should I tell them?" "Tell them I accept. Tell them Earth is ready to build lasting peace with any species willing to meet us halfway." She looked out at the stars through her office window. "And tell them that if they come in good faith, they'll find no better friends than humans. But if they come with bad intentions—" She trailed off, but Yang understood. "They'll meet Baba." "No," said. "They'll meet something scarier. A human who knows exactly how much violence they're capable of and chooses not to use it. Because that means we can't be provoked, can't be intimidated, and can't be forced into choices we don't want to make. We'll always choose peace, but we'll never be weak." She turned back to her work, preparing for the next round of negotiations. Somewhere out there in the galaxy, species were learning about humanity. Learning that these strange primates from a small blue world were not like anyone else. They could be gentle or deadly, compassionate or ruthless. They could build wonders or wage war, and the choice of which side you saw was entirely up to you. That was the real lesson of Baba. Not that humans were monsters in disguise, but that they were beings who had mastered both creation and destruction, and consciously chose creation every single day. And that choice, more than any weapon or fleet or warrior, made them truly powerful. The galaxy was still learning this lesson. But Ambassador, the woman who had been Baba and chose to be something better, would make sure they learned it well.